Hidden within the dark recesses, the underbelly of everybody's homebrew world is something that we should all have in common. And that is the juicy lore, the secrets underneath it all, the things that bind and weave your story together. Join us tonight as we discuss secrets and the weave of wonderful lore and secrets that we are able to make to create a plot web that our players believe is fantastical. So join us, buckle in, and let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome to another World Building Workshop. The objective this evening, we are discussing those juicy, glorious secrets. I'm sure each of us have what I've come to refer to as a lore hound, that person who's constantly sniffing out lore, looking for more. And so, things I know, thank you so much. But we all have a lore hound, that person who just cannot help but dig a little deeper for our lore and secrets, those glorious, juicy nuggets that we've left out. I've got myself in way too deep with lore because of some improv that I had to do. That's perfect. Unoriginal, please stick around because I'm going to be talking about exactly how to dig ourselves out of the improvisational holes that we dig, and what we can do with that information to really play it off as though this was intended all along, and I am just the masterful weaver of stories, and you're just here for the ride. So, Danny Griggs, props for being a lore hound. We all love you for it. If you are interested in seeing my notes, please come on over to YouTube, Twitch, pick your poison. Come on over and hang out, and we will enjoy this time together. So, the objective of secrets, the reason that we sprinkle secrets around our world, there's a singular purpose: foreshadowing. The only reason that we should be prompting our players with secrets in any way is so that we can foreshadow future events or future things. And what this foreshadowing does is it's comes before shadow. That foreshadowing, what that does for us is it allows us to pull people into the next situation. It's just a hook. That's all that it is. We could, boom, the evening's over. There's the workshop, everybody. Problem solved. The entire point of secrets and lore and foreshadowing is just to hook your players into the next plot point. But, as Unoriginal said on Instagram, it never works out that way. That's not how it plays out. It's always, inevitably, you pull out some improv, like way out of the depths of somewhere, and then you just realize, like, oh. I posted, I made a meme once, the dad on the roller coaster, realizing, like, eyes wide open, like, oh man, this is world breaking, while his daughter, the players, are having the time of their life. That's always how it pans out. Like, you're having a great session, everyone's having fun, you're improvising your way, you drop a piece of lore, and then you realize, like, wait a second. wait a second. Was that actually world breaking? And I've had to stop and wait a second. We're going to go, hold on everybody, take a break, go grab some chips. I need to make sure that I didn't just drop world breaking lore on you guys. But it's okay. It's okay if we do, for exactly the reason that Earthos just said on Instagram. Improv can be the absolute best part about D&D. Why is that? Because it's organic. It feels good. It feels right. Because the flow is just fun. It's fun to work in that flow and find that spot that you can really work in. So, what we're doing when we're making these... Oh, and by the way, Earthos has just subscribed for like the 3rd straight week. And so absolute champion. Everyone drop a freaking fire in the chat for Earthos for being a freaking monster. So the reason that we're writing this is to hook from plot point to plot point, right? From plot point to plot point to plot point, zippity doo dah, down the yellow brick road, we all go down this path. But the big fat B-U-T, but our players and improv are going to pull us out. So it doesn't matter that we've got this great foreshadowing that hooks us into this plot, that hooks us into this encounter. And like, oh, okay, they're going to meet the big bad evil guy here. Except they're like, oh, well, the bard's baby daddy shows up with like the kids and is like, you need to come home. And so they do the side quest thing. And now you're improvising down this whole other line because you just dropped this little tidbit of improv in here. So what are you going to do? What is the point? What's the objective there? Well, now that we have that little bit, this line doesn't go anywhere. It's still here. You built it, right? You still have this line of hooks, this storytelling plot, if you will. Remember, these streams are wonderful. Thank you, Earthos. I appreciate that. But this plot string, if you call, the string of encounters that you've built, it doesn't go away. It's still in your notes. At least, please tell me that you put it in your notes. Write it down. Put it in your notes. That way you can just go back to it because it's still here. There's still this great string of stuff that you have made. And just because you made it and your players don't jump on it right away doesn't mean it can't be used. I'm getting really with the finger. Doesn't mean it can't be used. Real Uncle Sam here. Because what we do is we use secrets. Magical. Because as you go back and you solve the bard's problems, his baby daddy problems or whatever, and you raise enough money for child support or whatever it was, right? Whatever whack improv story you went down, that's on you guys. But whatever that was, all you have to do is drop one juicy little secret here, right? This little present, bloop bloop, right? Little present, and you drop that into the improv, the side quest, this whole side quest line, and they discover something, and that discovery, of course, kicks them right back into your plot line. Now this is not in any way railroading. Okay? What would be railroading, because I have, railroading's bad. Bad DM. Don't do it. Don't railroad your players. Railroading would be if this great improv moment happens and the players are like, well, let's go help them. Let's go help the goblin and his problems. And you say, no, you guys need to go do this. That's railroading. Don't do that. That's removing the player agency. Okay? They chose that they want to go do that. And who knows, this side quest could be super fun. And you realize that this is a lot more fun than whatever your initial plot was. But this plot, which has the big bad evil guy in it, is going to continue to chug along. Yes. I got to work on my job of the Hutt. Right? Checking. Hey, Bob, thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it, man. Side things I know on YouTube says a side quest is simply an opportunity to procrastinate writing the rest of the campaign. And I would say, because I believe in real-time rendering a campaign, I have a definite outline of what the big bad evil guy is going to do. I know what the big bad evil guy needs to do because right, let's let's go back in the notes here. We did our boss, right? We did our boss's exercise. And so we know that we've got the Vampire Capitan, or Capitan Silverhand, right? And he's got this cool polymorphing hand that he can turn into various weapons and stuff, right? And because we did that and we know what skills he has and he knows what his motivations are, we know what our big bad evil guy is going to keep on doing regardless of what side quest our players run down. That's great. That's perfect, because that gives your world a real depth and reality. Because as your players are off side questing, holding hands through the meadow and frolicking, thanks, it's Dorothy and her friends as they frolic through the meadow. This is great and everything, only to realize as you sprinkle bits and secrets and foreshadowing back into that side quest plot, that the big bad evil guy has been chugging along his goals all the while. And so there have been a couple of occasions, I can think of two right off the top of my head. Yeah, exactly, Bob. Some of the best moments are born of whimsy and wanderlust. But I can think of two moments in all of the campaigns that I've run over the years where something happened that the players were too late for. And I let them realize that it was because they were off side questing, right? The world doesn't stop for you. You knew about this plot line. You knew what the big bad, you had received the clues, and you knew that the big bad evil guy was performing this great ritual, and you were off derping. Right? And there it is. The end. Now you get to deal with the consequences and the story that grows because of that. Oh, bellissimo. Freaking glorious, man. It's so much more real and organic because it's not, oh yes, we showed up and the white hats beat the black hats and we win. Woo! Like, no, that's not real. And while we're not trying to generate a simulation, that's boring. Real life is boring, right? But at the same time, this isn't, oh yeah, the movies where for some reason the bad guy doesn't push the button because he's got a monologue. No, the bad guy realizes that this is the moment and he dives for the controller and he slams the button because he will achieve his goals at any cost. And the good guys were too late. And the moment that they realize, like, wait, we're supposed to be the good guys. And how they grow and develop on the backside of that. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. So, try it. Try that. Time-sensitive quest. Oh, so things I know on YouTube says, is it like a time-sensitive quest all the time? Because what is the big bad? If we know, because we did our boss's exercise from last week, right? A villain to die for. If you haven't seen the episode, go watch A Villain to Die For and perform the boss's exercise for your boss. That way you know what they want to do. The W's, the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. This is absolutely crucial. Because if you know these things, then you can determine the how. And once you have that, your big bad evil guy is going to go about his business, regardless of what side quest your players are on. And they could be having the time of their life, having a grand old time, frolicking in the whimsical wanderlust of the wilderness, and completely miss that the big bad evil guy succeeded in opening this nexus to the netherworld, and then the demons are spilling forth into the land, and that's a whole another line of quests that your players now have. But then let them realize that the great way that I do this, let them realize. How can we let them realize? Cinematic mode. Video games are great at this. Video games do this because they have what's called a cutscene, where you can't do anything. You just have to sit there and watch the story progress. And from a gameplay standpoint, it's boring. Let me get back to the whatever. I want to do the things. Okay, from a story standpoint, it's crucial. And for your players at the table, take them into the moment, right? You can paint a picture as far away across the dunes. Give them a very cinematic moment here as you all bed down to sleep this evening, far away across the dunes beneath the starry skies. A henchman of the villain hands forth the silvered dagger that is then plunged into the heart of this innocent victim, and the ritual is completed and the portals open. And in that moment, in all of your players' dreams, this face turns and looks directly into your soul. You were too late. And then end for the evening, as your players realize, like, oh no, that was the big bad evil guy that we met like 3 things ago, and an entire side quest 6 months of questing later, and the big bad evil guy has done the thing. Oh no. That moment is so fun for your players, because then it's like, oh, he called us out in our dreams and stuff, right? And it gets real at that point. And so now they're like, wait a second, we're going to go back to big bad evil guy plot line, and we're going to go hound some scum and villainy. And it's super fun. It's super fun because it was all born of that improv moment. And when you drop that tidbit of a secret, right? An example that I think I've used before when talking about secrets is your players are looting somebody and they find an item or a medallion, a talisman, a note, an order, whatever, right? A receipt for all I care, right? But it somehow breadcrumbs back to the original plot. And that's when players' eyes, they go, open up. Wait a second. Hold up. This guy works for so-and-so? Capitan Silverhand? Like, wait, what? And then they think about it. And they're like, oh, it makes sense. Even though all you really did was just like put one piece of loot on this random thug that they nixed, right? Who was shipping some goods. And then they realized, like, oh, it's all connected. DM secret, everybody. It wasn't connected until about 5 seconds ago. Earthos, it's good to see you on Twitch, man. I'm living for this diagram. Yeah, thanks, right? Super descript, right? Arrows literally everywhere. Thanks, man. Right? It's maybe better just to take it in on Instagram. This is what I need to master for one of my groups to make it move smoothly between the two. Yes. So, this isn't in a couple of the groups, all of my groups are connected because of this stuff right here. I have connected all of my groups. I run 4 sessions a month. Every weekend I have a game, and they are all in different campaigns, all running simultaneously in a chronological standpoint. All of the games are happening right now at the same time. So whatever adventure they're on, there's another party of adventurers somewhere else in the world running their stuff right now. And while they never meet each other, because I have a couple players that are playing in both campaigns, that sort of thing. So yeah, exactly, Erickson. It's all coming together. While they are playing simultaneously, they encounter things, and the meta, when they discover the meta, it's like, oh, wait, is this? And you just look at them, you're like, mm-hmm. And they go, oh no. And they realize that you just dropped a secret, a super special secret in their campaign that connects and opens up their eyes for a completely different campaign. And the meta knowledge that happens. If you've got a lore hound at your table, holy smokes, they eat it up. It's absolutely freaking glorious how fun that moment is for that player. Because from their perspective, as everybody else at the table, you know, the 4 or 5 other people at the table just kind of look at them and say, what? And, can I tell them? Because you dropped a piece of secret that was special just for them. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like to do that for a player. And they realize they have this ultra secret piece of meta knowledge, and they know who Cleasoval the Dream Stealer is, and that he's the father of one of the players in your other campaign, and that the formation of this god was all of a result of something happening a completely different campaign. And as things are stacking and progressing, and that you've unleashed a god who's doing things in other places, it's so much fun for your players. All this because you took a moment and you actually wrote down some lore. If we have our big bad evil guy, we do our bosses exercise. I'm sorry, Bob, before your comment runs away, I need to come back here. With 2 open doors comes choice. For you, you must leave one closed to open the other. Reflection follows choice, and from that comes wisdom. Oh, Bob, you're always dropping such wisdom, man. But lore. So because we did our bosses exercise, episode 5, right? Season 2, episode 5, A Villain to Die For, right? Go watch it. Okay. Because we know who, what, when, where, why, and how our villain is doing things, it's super easy for us to create a plot line for the villain, because that's who we are. Stop trying to plot your players. The players are they're gonna write their part of the story. Remember, you are one person at this table of 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Goodness, don't play with that many people, right? But you are one brain at this table and one person telling the story. Granted, you're everybody else, but you're the antagonist. You are the world. Be the world. Stop trying to be your players. So write what your villain is doing. What does your villain need to accomplish to get this done? Right? Yeah, exactly. Things I know on YouTube. Darth Vader is Luke's father. Darth is doing what he's going to do regardless of what Luke does. They're off derping around the galaxy, blowing up planets and stuff. It's Luke who has to chase him down and undo this Death Star problem. It's not the other way around. Okay? Erthos. I love that moment. My players just got a prophecy that uses the word protege. One of their masters is the big bad evil guy, and he is going to call his old student his protege. And I want the lore hound to catch it. That is so fun because you thought ahead and you wrote a prophecy. You can fulfill that prophecy however you want, right? You could fulfill that moment in talking to an old NPC. And you're like, oh, you're such a good little mall cheeky. Thank you so much. You must have been a protege in your old dojo or whatever. And that moment that like you use the word protege and it has like serious meaning to your players because of this prophecy. And they all look at each other and like, wait, what? And then you just carry on. That, delicious, Erthos. That is foreshadow. Just dropping little tidbits like that. Corvus, having a villain that is uninterested in the party initially is so delicious. Exactly. That's the whole point. The villain doesn't know who these guys are, right? It's the what's the fun line? Thanos, right? When Scarlet Witch confronts Thanos because his minions like killed her husband at some point. Like, you took everything from me. And Thanos, just bold as could be, I don't even know who you are. Right? Like, I'm just doing what I'm doing, man. Like, whoever the heck you guys are, Like, oh, so I burned your village down? Whatever, dude. Like, do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? Right? Oh, you're an orphan? Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? I killed your parents. Okay, dude. Like, whatever, man. That means nothing to me. I'm just doing what I'm doing. And so, if our players want to diverge, just to muddy up my diagram here, right, Earthos? If your players diverge from that plot, no big deal. We're not the players. We're the world. We're the antagonists. We are doing the things that the players should be worried about. If they're not worried about it, no big deal. They'll start worrying about it once it gets big enough. Once you unleash a demon horde on the entire countryside, and they can't go into any towns, completely crash the economy. They're like, well, where am I supposed to get potions now? Yeah, well, you took too dang long, and now there's demons living there. Tough. That must have been when I was younger, from the OG Conan. Yeah, right. Delicious. All right, you guys, that's all that I have for tonight. It was very much lectured. There's really very little for me to do, at least that I want to do from this perspective this evening. For the Rising Tide campaign, we've got our Capitan Silverhand and all that entails, but I'm not actually going to be using that villain in that campaign. So I have an entire different line, but because I have players kicking around here every now and again, I'm going to withhold that information because it's going to be sweet. Earthos, what would you say is a good way to practice or improve improv? Awesome question, and it's one that we all need to be doing because improv is a learnable skill. Huzzah. You can become proficient in improv. It's difficult, right? It takes practice, but the best way is to actually study it, watch, perform exercises. And I would also say, so if we're improving for our bosses or for villains, that sort of thing, knowing the W's, this is going to help us improv. Because that if we know the motivations of our villain, if we know the who, what, when, where, why of our villain, it's going to be easy for us. It's easy for us to say, oh, well, I don't even know who you are, rather than going into some epic monologue, well, yes, and I'll take more from you. That's not the point of Thanos. Thanos' whole thing is he's just like, yeah, I did it. What do you want? Right? I did what needed to be done. Tough. And y'all are belly aching about it when you were too weak to do what needed to be done. That's very Thanos, right? And so if we know who our character is, it will open up how we improv for that character. In addition to that, in like general improv at the table, I would say it's important to say yes and, right? There's always because we have dice, because we have ability checks and skill rolls and so on and so forth, we have the tendency to hide information behind a dice roll. And I think that the common pitfall that dungeon masters fall into is, well, let's see what the dice say. Let's see what you actually know. No. Hey, man. What's your intelligence? Oh, a 16? Oh yeah, you definitely know this, but go ahead and make a history roll. You give them some, make them roll for more. Never gatekeep the knowledge 100% behind a roll. Because that's not normal. That's oh yeah, you're a cleric of some order? Yeah, you would definitely know this information. But let's go ahead and have you roll and we'll see if you we can drop in a name or something like that, right? So it's along the lines of yes and. Yeah, you totally know. Yeah, you can totally do that. And let's go ahead and check for it. And this also happens. And the NPC does this in response. And so always give them something to feed off of. But yeah, just become a student. Study it. There's so many people with so many skills and tricks and things, drills that you can run through to help you with that. So awesome question, Earthos. Bob, hang out at the coffee shop for a bit, and you'll see improv masters in conversation. Yeah, that's a kicker that I don't have the gift of small talk. That's a problem that I have, but I'm more than willing to lecture. I'll teach all day. I'll lecture all day. I'll perform workshops all day. This is fun. This is a blast. But small talk, not my type of improv, right? Corvus, write down 3 to 5 NPC traits that they embody and let that drive the improv. Yeah, that's perfect. Something I always like to help my players improv is your traits, bonds, ideals, and flaws, right? That little part of your character sheet that never gets used, use that. Stop using alignment. Use traits, bonds, ideals, and flaws, because that is what is going to drive your character, right? Not some etheric idea of, a concept of lawful good. Yes, I am the embodiment of lawful good. No, said nobody ever, right? You are who you're connected to, right? Your personality traits, who you're bonded to, right? Your ideals, your morals, your ethics, your values and beliefs, right? That all matters. And then maybe your personality flaws, your vices for your character, vices for your villain. You can do this. You can do traits, bonds, ideals, and flaws for your villain too. That's essentially the same thing as your 5 W's. It's who you are as a person, which is much more important than, yes, I am chaotic evil. Thanks, man. That doesn't tell me anything. But knowing that I will kill the world to save the people I love, boom, that tells me everything right now. I know instantly what I can expect from that person. Huge difference. Huge difference. Things I know. Who I know has done improv training. The trick to improv is not to improv. Ooh, tell me more. Tell me more. He says, prepared responses to common situations sets you up for success. Oh, interesting. So having a prepared response makes a difference here. You can prepare responses ahead of time. Somebody says F you, and you automatically respond, I wouldn't do you with his. Okay, so that is a unique example, but the point comes across, right? You can have voice lines prepared, right? Knowing that your players are going to enter into a combat. You can prepare ahead of time. And I would encourage you to prepare ahead of time, because we should be conducting some amount of parlay with the players, right? The witty banter back and forth that I love to refer to every single session. You should have a couple of voice lines prepared, and that will help you to improv mid-session. Earthos on Twitch. I once had a group of players I once played with always asked, so how about that weather? Crazy, right? Well, I would say, how about that weather? That is a moment where you can conduct an improv exercise with your players. An improv exercise that I love to conduct with my players is building NPCs on the spot. I don't build NPCs. I never build NPCs. I don't. I can't remember the last time I actually oh yes, and he has an eye patch and a thingamajiggy. No, I haven't done it. You know why? Because it's so much fun to sit there with players and say, tell me something unique you notice about him. And they look at me and they say, he's morbidly obese. Excellent. And I start acting like I'm morbidly obese. and then you say, okay, what's something you notice about him? His dietary habits are absolutely like, this is the most disgusting man you've ever seen in your life. Yes, I'm most pleased to meet you. And then you are building this NPC at the table with them. And you ask another player, oh, how does this person make you feel? And oh, well, and they have an epiphany. Oh, a really fun thing. What if, uh, since he's a cult leader, but he's like the grossest person possible, what if it was an item that made him especially charismatic? And so he's always playing with this ring on his finger because it's constantly casting charm on the people around him. And you have just built this super fun, engaging NPC through a small improv exercise, just by having your players flex the, well, what would be fun? And it makes for a really fun exercise. So that's a quick tip for you. If you want to try that, I would encourage it because I do it every single session and it's so much fun. So if that's it, we're going to go ahead and close out for the evening. As always, make sure you're having fun. Take care of your players. Thanks everybody for having a great session. That was a fun one tonight. Thanks for all the engagement, Earthos. Things I know. I always appreciate you hanging around, chit-chatting and such. So it makes it so much easier to actually be engaging if I've got somebody to engage with. So have a great night, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, man.